Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to welcome you to the information session for the Beyond Tourism Innovation Challenge. This session will be recorded, so it will be available in the Beyond Tourism webpage under the Frequently Asked Questions section. We will include one question that specifically mentions how can I obtain more information, and we will plug in the link to the recording. It will be available in a few days so that you have that reference. All the microphones will be muted. We will get started in 1 or 2 more minutes with a presentation. And once we finish the presentation, that we have a number of slides that we want to show you, and some also slides to guide you through the application process. Once we do that, then we will open the session for questions and answers. And to do this, we invite you to use the Q&A functionality, which is located at the bottom of the screen. So just click there and write your question, and we will be happy to answer to the best of our ability in the time we have allotted for today. So we will get started in 1 more minute. Okay, so we're going to get started.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And we thought to start this presentation firstly with explaining a little bit about IDB Lab, who we are, and what we really do in the region to set the context for this challenge. You can go to the next slide. So we are part of the wider IDB group, which is the leading source of developmental finance and know-how across Latin America and the Caribbean. We work with, the next slide please. So IDB group comprises of IDB Invest and the IDB Lab, who works mostly with private sector and innovative entrepreneurs. IDB Invest works with larger enterprises to bring impact across the region, and IDB works with the sovereign, with the governments of this region. Thank you. A big part of what IDB Lab does is to drive innovation for inclusion. And when we speak about this, it's at the core of what we do. If you look at this picture, you'll see Sebastian, which is a part of the art studio in Medellin, who designed our branding for IDB Lab, which includes persons with autism and those sorts of disabilities into the program to bring those creative skills and create a unique product. Thank you. Next slide. So at the core of this is innovation for inclusion for the populations. So what we do is bring these ideas that are market-driven with transformational impact. When we speak to vulnerable populations, we're speaking to persons such as women. You can go to the next slide, please. Women populations, we are talking about all the other persons who need this. And also having these transformational impact that can be scaled and reach other wider populations, as well as integrate solutions that are needed and can be scaled across the region. We have over 27 years of experience in Latin America and the Caribbean. We're in 26 countries. We have over 350 million that we have successfully deployed in financial instruments across the board. So we use 3 main type of offerings. So one, we offer financing which is very flexible because we have a high level of risk appetite. We mobilize capital also from across the region towards this financing, whether private sector, venture fund, or providing the support to entrepreneurs. Most of our funding to early stage businesses are through venture fund, however, and that 350 million that I mentioned does speak to the consolidation of venture funds. So we are the main supporters of venture capital across the Caribbean and Latin America. We also use our knowledge because we have been in the region for over 20 years, and we have amassed knowledge across different thematic areas, whether in climate, in knowledge economy, or in sustainable cities. And we take that knowledge and spread it across the region so others can also adopt these transformational impact within these countries. And we take a very actionable approach to help our knowledge to get into the hands of stakeholders who really need to enhance the developmental agenda. And finally, we focus on connections, partnerships. And the other presenter will speak also in the challenge about partnerships and its importance and how we connect communities and platforms towards this developmental agenda. Next. So we engage our communities in different ways, through our priorities, through challenges that we have, through opportunities that we see, and we try to see how we can engage the communities towards innovative solutions that we will partner with to do this. In most recent times, we have the COVID-19 challenge that we issued, and because this was a solution that was needed for an immediate problem, we took 2 weeks and we mobilized over 500 proposals towards COVID-19 solutions from private sector, innovative startups, and different community groups. Next slide. And I just wanted to close this section off by showing some of the different solutions that were brought to the market based on the COVID-19 challenge that we have across the region. Thank you. And I'll hand it over to.
Thanks. So IDB Lab, in collaboration with the United Nations World Tourism Organization, launched the Beyond Tourism Innovation Challenge on June the 15th. This challenge, this is an open innovation call that is a result of several weeks of listening to tourism authorities, tourism sector stakeholders, and IDB tourism experts on what to do in the recovery phase. The general consensus is that this crisis will certainly lead to structural changes in the sector, right? The sector is resilient by nature, we know that. It has historically resurfaced from other destabilizing events in history, but those unforeseen events have made it stronger. How? Through stakeholder collaboration and mostly innovation. So this crisis is an opportunity for this resilient sector to use innovation to recalibrate and re-emerge, ready to grow again and to support the global recovery efforts, as it is a crucial sector that contributes to the GDP worldwide. So through the Beyond Tourism Challenge, IDB Lab is aiming to identify solutions and business models to revitalize the sector with innovation, right? Because this is the core of what we do, innovation. These solutions, however, must have 4 characteristics. First, the business model must innovate in one of 2 broad categories: the category of workforce development and the category of environmental sustainability, either or. In the category of workforce development, we include every single approach that deals with investing in upskilling or reskilling the sector's human capital and develop new talent by supporting entrepreneurship in tourism. The tourism workforce, we must realize that it needs new skills, multidimensional skills for the recovery phase, and particularly digital skills. In the category of environmental sustainability, we are focusing on preserving the biodiversity and the fragile destinations that host an enormous amount of tourists. How? With measures to preserve natural resources like energy, water, and also through the adoption of circular economy approaches, waste management models. This category also includes the necessary innovations in agriculture, AgTech, or climate smart agricultural technologies, to satisfy the growing demand for sustainable food systems and the shifting of global consumption patterns. Because now the tourist preference is to know what he or she is having on the plate served before him or her, right? The tourist increasingly favors local and organic productions. There is a preference for agrotourism, nature green tourism, and other concepts like from the sea to the table or farm to fork concepts. So, 4 characteristics of those business models. One, being in one of those 2 categories that I just mentioned. The second characteristics of the model to be presented is that it has to foster the adoption of innovative technologies. This is to ensure consumer protection and regain confidence of the tourist, right? So people now are talking about using virtual reality to entice tourists to travel, technologies to perhaps book the entire seamless experience from the moment you left home to the moment when you return back. You book every single aspect, every single attraction, even a dinner online. You can do that as well with technology. There's also analytics for market intelligence, trends, to know what the tourist is preferring to do or eat perhaps. And this category also includes the biosecurity measures that need to be put in place. This is not new in the region. The region is going through a transformation, and we are aiming to support this recovery phase with innovations to accelerate the adoption of these technologies. This is nothing new. It was happening already, and now what we're doing is just giving it a little push with more innovation. The other 2 characteristics are what IDB Lab looks in their projects, which are financial sustainability. We are interested in those models that can actually continue in time, right? So when our resources are depleted, then perhaps they can continue into the 4th characteristic, which is the achievement of economic, social, and environmental impact, which is key to the mission that we have as a lab and as part of the IDB group. Next. The geographical scope of the challenge is within IDB Lab's commitment to the small and island nations. So it covers, this challenge in particular covers 15 countries, the countries that you are seeing on screen, right? And particularly those 6 countries that are located in the Caribbean region, plus Belize and Haiti, also English speaking. We call this the target countries, and you'll hear a lot about that throughout the presentation, how we need to focus on those target countries because we want to benefit those countries in particular. Next. So who can apply? Because we are part of the IDB group and because the IDB is owned by 48 member countries, the challenge is open for organizations that are registered in one of those 48 member countries. So it's open to all. However, as mentioned before, if there is an organization located in one country that is outside those 15 target countries, that organization must form an alliance or a partnership with an organization located in one target country, right? We also want demonstrated expertise in the tourism sector of the organization who's applying or co-applying if there's more than one. And we encourage, and I cannot reiterate this more, we encourage to form alliances between actors across the tourism value chain. Why? Because these are special times. It's very particular what we're going through, and we need more than ever to form these partnerships in order to jumpstart the sector, come up with counterpart resources, and formulate ideas jointly. Next. So how to apply? The first thing you need to do, if you haven't done this, is read very carefully all the information that has been in a very detailed manner captured in the tourism, in the Beyond Tourism webpage. You will also find links there to the document that we call the guidelines document. That document explains in detail the context of why we're doing this. These 4 characteristics of the business model that I mentioned a few minutes ago. We explain what we are looking in the category of workforce development, what we are looking in the category of environmental sustainability. It explains also the different kinds of awards, the phases of the project. Everything you need to know about the challenge is captured there in the guidelines document, so please read it carefully. We also have worked on a section called frequently asked questions. Right now we have a good 18 frequently asked questions that really guide you through those concerns that you normally have while you read the guidelines document and you want to find out a little bit more of, when will I know the outcome of my application? How do I submit it? Who can I contact? It's all there. So once you review that information, how to apply? We use an online platform called Unoodle. In a few more minutes, we'll get more into the ropes of how to navigate and the tips for using the platform. But for now, I just wanted to put it out there. It's an online platform, and we request that you work on an online pitch document in which you will explain what is the problem you're trying to solve, what is your solution specifically. You will explain the mechanics of the model step by step, the financial sustainability aspect. How is this impacting the communities or the populations? Who are your partners in this effort, right? Where do you want to go with your business model? And then in a very simple format, you will have to also capture the project budget in an Excel type of very simple, not detailed format of a budget. In addition, you have to upload 4 required documents. If you are registered in one of those, if you're an applicant organization in one of those 15 target countries, then you need 4 documents, which is a letter of expression or written commitment on your counterpart resources, because everything that we do in partnership with our partners, for a lack of other word, in the region, those agencies that we work with, and we require some skin in the game. You don't have to go alone. We can give you some matching counterpart resources as well, but we have to divide that responsibility and in order to get where we want to get. So we can add some value, providing you with financial resources and connections and the knowledge that we've gained through the years, but we require those counterpart resources from you and your partners if you have them. Then you need to also upload the typical legal documentation that we require, which is the registration, copy of legal constitution of your organization, applicant bylaws, annual financial statements. Again, we know these are special times. Whatever you have uploaded, it's needed because we need to evaluate the capacity of the applicant to manage those financial resources, right? For those applicants that are registered in a country other than the target country, do not forget, we need a collaboration or joint venture agreement. A simple letter would do in which you express that there is a collaboration with the governance of the model is very important. And remember, we are doing this because we are trying to benefit the 15 target countries that I mentioned before. We want the knowledge, technologies, and capacities to reside in those target countries. We encourage technology transfer, but that's our main focus. Next. So on July the 31st, when the challenge closes, in the month of August, we will review the applications received. And we will use the evaluation criteria that IDB Lab uses for all its projects. This is not new. Because we are an innovation lab, the level of innovation of the model is crucial for us. It's key. That idea that you bring that is novel and new for your country or your sector is what we're looking for. We also care about the degree of social and environmental impact of the model, of course. We give you extra points if you are going to work your model around including those excluded groups and communities like women, indigenous groups, the disabled, or any low-income populations. We also look for models that have scalability potential. So perhaps once you pilot your model with us, it could be replicated or scaled in other regions or perhaps in other countries. We look for models that have financial sustainability for the next 3 or 5 years. We are also going to evaluate the capacity of the applicant, as mentioned before, and its strategic partners, right? And also we look very closely at how the model was built because it has to be viable or implemented. Next. Awards, not my favorite word because this is not the type of challenge where the applicants receive the financial resource upon announcement of selected applicants. As mentioned before, we are about co-creating these solutions together. So an IDB Lab will conduct due diligence of the models and evaluate the technical and financial capacities of the applicant. But we are providing 2 types of awards. The IDB Lab financing, which is in the form of non-reimbursable financing or grants, ranging from $250,000 to $500,000 US, and reimbursable financing in the form of loans from $500,000 to $2 million. The other award is exposure, visibility, the possibility of joining IDB Lab's network of global innovators, and through the connections that will be established, become part of IDB Lab's community of practice. Next. So the challenge was launched on June the 15th. It will be closed in less than a month away. So you need to hurry up and put it all together, get ready, because it closes on July the 31st at midnight. Then we will leave the entire month of August and perhaps a couple of weeks in September to review the applications, to do a pre-selection. We will conduct due diligence, as mentioned before. We care about the capacity of the applicant, and we will look very closely at the model and at those capacities, and we will make a final selection. And we expect to announce selected proposals in the month of September. And with that, I'm gonna pass the baton to the next presenter to look at tips on how to prepare your application on Untitled.
Yes. So if you can see on the frequently asked questions, question number 11, we provided a PDF version of how the online application is. Again, this is something for all the applicants to have. So we encourage you to, if you didn't know about this, please take a look at that. And that document, will be kind of all the questions that we will have in the online application. So as we know, everyone is working from home, connection issues in some places might be very tough. So we encourage you to use this PDF document, and alongside with a Word document, you can start completing your application so that you don't have to do everything online. But we remind you to please, once you have all your content, put it all in the online application through the Unoodle platform. So just as I would like to guide you through how to access the online application via the website and with the platform Unoodle. So if you go to the landing page of the challenge, you see the button apply in the upper right hand corner. So you click on apply and it will open you to the Unoodle platform site. If you don't have an account with Unoodle, you'll have to create one. And you can do it via also Facebook or LinkedIn. Once you start to create an account, just a tip for the Unoodle password, this should contain a mix of at least one number and one character. And once you completed your account, you will have access to the Unoodle platform, and then you can click on create a new application. And you will see all the online form. So just please remember, in many of the questions, some of them are open-ended and others have a word limit. So we really encourage you to put as much detail as possible. Please don't generalize anything, because as much detail we have, the more it will be good for the evaluator panel to revise your application. And as mentioned earlier, you will also have to provide a very brief budget for your proposal. And in the online application, you'll see the budget template provided there. So when you click on that Excel document, you will see the template. And so we want to encourage you to just put, the main activities and how much you're requesting from IDB Lab and how much you can provide as the counterpart. And then once you have that document completed, you can save it in your computer and then upload it in the question, upload the budget proposal. So you just click on the browse, select the document and upload it there. And as mentioned earlier, you'll need to also have documents to be uploaded. So the same thing, just go to browse, select the document you want to upload, and then save it there. So the great thing about Unoodle platform is that you can always save your application. So if you go through the page, there's the button on the lower part where it says save. So that way you don't, as you are completing your application, you can always go back and retrieve the application with all the information that you've already uploaded. And then you also have the option to delete the application. Sometimes we see people that upload many versions of the proposal, but we just wanted to let you know that that's also the possibility of deleting it in case you accidentally created like 2-3 versions of your application. So when you have all the required information uploaded, you'll see the taskbar where it says 100% complete. So that means that you answered all the questions, all the upload of documents, it's already set up. So that's very important, and it's a guide for you to kind of to see how far along you are in your application. And please remember, in the bottom of your application form, you'll have to click on the submit button in order for your submission to be completed. And then once you click that button, you'll have the confirmation saying that your application has been successfully submitted. And then you will also receive an email that confirming you that your application was submitted, and in the information of your application as well. And again, you know, even though you submitted the application, you can always go back and unsubmit it, you know, in case you forgot something or whatever. But we want to encourage everyone to please, please, please submit your application by July 31st, because that's when the deadline is for our challenge. So those are just some tips for you when you're working on your application.
Great, thank you. And on screen, you can see that we have a dedicated mailbox for the challenge. It's beyondtourism@iadb.org. It's open 24/7. So send your questions in and we will gladly answer. And there's also the QR code for the webpage there. If you haven't looked at it before, if you wanna visit the webpage and look at the different sections that we have there, in which we explain step by step every single aspect of this challenge. Before jumping into answering the questions that I can see that we have already a few in the Q&A functionality here in this webinar, I just want to give some very general messages based on the experience that IDB Lab has with other challenges, and in particular with this one, what I've been hearing you know, from, you know, potential proponent agencies. So the first message is that this is not a lifeline. I know that we're going through very hard times, but the IDB, the window that deals with the public sector and that works directly with governments, has managed to work with the government of every single country of our borrowing countries to establish credit lines, fiscal subsidies, and provide needed support for the emergency to support businesses. At IDB Lab, we are all about innovation. We are all about ideas. We are all about technology for inclusion. So this is what we care about, and this is what we want to see in your business model. What is that novel aspect? What is your value proposition that you bring to the table, right? In terms of counterpart, don't forget that you can always forge partnerships with other stakeholders across the tourism value chain. Tourism has one particularity as a sector, and that it's actually multi-sector, because it touches on agriculture, transportation, technology, you name it, air, sea, land, it's everywhere, right? And there are many, many organizations that, like you, are depending on the tourism for survival, and these partnerships therefore are crucial. We want you to apply as clusters. We want our support to really amplify the impact that you will have with your idea at the country level. So partnerships are encouraged. And finally, I want to also touch on a question that we get a lot, and it's, you know, give us some examples. Why didn't you include in the guidelines a list of examples of the ideas that you want to see? We conduct these open innovation challenges. We've done quite a few already, and we refrain from including a list of ideas. And the reason is because sometimes we have an idea that we think is going to be the right model that we would like to fund. And then through these open innovation calls, we get completely different, fantastic, novel ideas that we never even had considered before. So don't expect us to tell you what to do, because you are in the sector and you know better what is happening and how you transform it and how you would like to revitalize it. Having said that, let me just tell you what I've seen from other challenges, because this is not the only challenge that has been running for the tourism sector. This is something that IDB Lab is doing now in these 7 weeks. But there have been many other, challenges and open calls and different types of around the globe to spur innovation in the sector. And those solutions that I've seen come out of those challenges have to do with safety and hygiene measures, right? Proximity to medical facilities, chatbots to make reservations, to follow the mobility patterns and manage visitor flows with the Internet of Things. There's one on service-oriented robotics, gamification methods for emotional monitoring. I've seen, of course, there are new standards, these contact-free receptions for hotels. There are applications to help reduce the significant overload on call centers and to streamline passengers' rebooking and refund processes. There's also applications for the government to communicate effectively with travelers in any language upon their arrival to the country. There are tours that are smart tours, so that visitors can see in real time the attractions, and they are located through Bluetooth and they know where to go. We've seen also one related to a social network to connect global travelers, not only among themselves, but with local communities, and learn how to cook a local dish, make friends, and encourage local communities to play host for the tourists. I mean, there are such a great variety, and one that recently, actually, IDB Lab provided support completely outside of the challenge, but very related, is one related to organic waste generated in hotel kitchens, and how through a tech application, it actually weighs, captures an image of the organic waste, recognizes the type of waste, determines even its caloric composition, volume, environmental impact, and ends up providing sufficient support for decision making so that authorities know whether it can be actually transformed, sent to the small companies to be transformed with a circular economy approach, or even sold to groups of recyclers and collectors. And that model includes various actors in the tourism value chain, including collectors, people that are dealing with transportation, the small processing companies, corporates at the hotel levels. This is just to give you an idea. Again, I'm doing this just because we are bombarded with the question of give us examples, but this is by no means what we are intending for you to do, but just so that we have it, so that this is just to give you an idea of what is happening across the region and around the globe. People are already thinking how to transform and reimagine tourism, because the tourist that you knew before COVID is not the tourist that is going to visit your country after this pandemic. If my colleagues want to say something else before we go into Q&A, please. Okay. So we have.
I think we can proceed. We have quite a bit of questions in Q&A that we can start
okay,
with.
so let me do that. Let me just real quick try and tackle each and every one in the 20 minutes that we have left. And I always invite you to write to beyondtourism@iadb.org if your question is not answered today for some reason. So, question number 1, is there a specific format or wording for the agreement of collaboration between partners who submit together an application? The answer is that no, there is none. If we haven't provided you with a template of said document, then you are free to write as you wish. Just, make sure that you express clearly what is that, the nature of that collaboration, the nature of that agreement, what would be the roles, who's doing what. Second question. In some cases, the 150 or 300 words limit in the portal, I assume this is your Noodle, is really tough. What if you need to add some text? I understand it's tricky working with an online platform, but remember, you are pitching your idea to the innovation lab of the IDB group. I don't know if you've heard of an elevator pitch. In which you have a few minutes to pitch your idea, and this is precious time. This is the art of explaining your very complex business model in a very concise manner. So I applaud you for summarizing and doing the best you can to get your text in the word limit that we have established. The next one, the counterpart resources can be something already invested. For example, we as an organization invested in an indigenous museum around $20K and we want to promote it. Can that investment count as a counterpart? Unfortunately, the counterpart resources need to be half in cash and half in kind. So I don't see how we would be able to accept this, because the in-kind resources have to be directly linked to the operations of the model and the actual organization that is going to promote it. Is there anything else you would like to add perhaps to this counterpart question?
Only add that the counterpart should come along with the project. So if this is a spend, and I'm not looking at the value of the spend, if it is a spend a year, 2 years ago, we would not be able to count this as counterpart for the project moving forward. That's the only other thing I'll add to it.
Great, thank you. The question is this open to nonprofit only or businesses as well? It's open to public and private sector organizations, for-profit, non-for-profit, innovation agencies, businesses, micro, small, and big. Again, it's not about the organization, but it's about the partnership that you are going to formulate in order to apply. Question, can we apply for both grant and loan? Sure. If you have the counterpart resources and you have the financial muscle, of course, you're welcome to. Remember, when you apply to the financial resources, it's all about the model. You're not applying, it's not what comes first, not the resources, and then I'll see how I can figure out what to do with the resources in order to find an innovative way to revitalize my business. It's the other way around. Is I have an idea to revitalize a sector, then I apply to whatever is more convenient to my business model, right? And in the guidelines, you can get lost. It's very explicit of what specifically a grant, non-reimbursable financing will cover, and likewise with loans. How many selected winners are you estimating? Is there a hard number or a hard grant figure that you cap out? Really, we don't at this point. It's an open innovation call. We've never run one in the middle of a pandemic. So we are really very expectant and curious to see how this will end up. We have those 15 countries that we want to benefit, but we don't really know where this challenge is going to take us. We are ready to support as many as we can, but we also have some limitations, constraints in financial and human resources. Could an international agricultural agency partner with a tourism, public or private sector partner? Absolutely. We encourage all types of partnerships because you never know what the business model is all about. So yes. If the proposal is submitted by an IDBM member country, organization, I assume, in collaboration with 2 other non-member country entities, do all 3 have to provide the bylaws and other governance documents? When you apply, there will be a primary applicant and a co-applicant. And we will be requesting that whoever applies is the organization that is more, I would say, solid in every aspect. So just remember that if it's an organization located outside of those 15 target countries, you must prove that you are legally registered in one of those 48 member countries, right? I don't know if I answered the question correctly or clearly. I hope so.
Anything, Doran, can I add? Just for that person, if you need follow-up, you could always just write to the Beyond Tourism website email, and we will give you further directives on that.
Correct. Sometimes we have to see these on a case-by-case basis. It's not just black and white, and you know, we're going to have to do that. Is there a preference for a multi-country proposal? You can send an application that would cover a number of countries. Yes, if that's the question, you can do that. There's no preference either or. Again, it all depends on the model. What is the definition of the infrastructure in the funding requirement? Does rehabbing, fixing an existing building count for infrastructure? Yes, infrastructure and equipment is basically that simple. Yes. If multiple applicants are co-applying, is there a need to have one lead applicant, or is the application responsibility co-shared? I think that I mentioned that there is one lead applicant, but every single co-applicant will have to upload their respective information, and that has been set up in the UNOODLE platform accordingly, so you won't get lost with that. It will be very simple. Thanks for launching this prize and fielding questions. In section 5A on grants, it says, this type of financing is offered generally to NGOs, nonprofit organizations, or companies that implement innovative models with limited earning potential, but with clear social and environmental impact. Can you please provide more clarification on how you define or view limited earning potential, given there's no in-between from that to already profitable and growing in loans? So when you work with a nonprofit organization, for instance, of course, there is limited earning potential there, because the activities of that type of organization are mostly directed to cover their operating expenses and then focus on the model to benefit a certain community, for example. In the case of loans, it's a different story, because then you're looking at a more financially solid and for-profit corporation, for instance, that would be able to absorb that loan and be able to repay the loan accordingly. I hope I answered that one clearly. If not, write to us. Are governmental organizations like some kind of foundations allowed to apply? Yes. It is open to private and public sector organizations. Again, it's all about the model. Can you go more in depth regarding the co-financing requirements? The application says it should be 50%, half cash and half in kind. The in kind is referring to the potential commodities needed or tech materials. So I would like to ask my colleague, maybe to, in her experience of dealing with so many projects and the counterpart resources, maybe to help me with that question to be more specific.
Okay, so as it says, 50% in cash and in kind, I'll tackle the in kind part of it. This has to do with whether it is the human resource or the other equipment or whatever else you use in the line of business that contributes to this project, that is working towards the same overall objective of the project. So whether it is hours worked on the project by your engineer or the work that your team puts in, that can be counted as in-kind contribution. The tech materials that have been developed, yes, some of those can be counted if it's going to be used in the line of the program that you're seeking to engage in.
Thank you. I think the next question is pretty much the same. And there we have one. My company is registered in the US, and we have been working in Jamaica since 2017. We are starting the process to register our company in Jamaica this week. What if we don't have all the paperwork done for the registration by July 31st, 2020? We want to participate as a locally registered company. So write to us. This is a very particular case, so I don't want to make general even assumptions on the status of this. I encourage you to write to the beyondtourism@iadb.org mailbox, and we can engage in further discussion on this. Thank you. Does an application get more points by innovating in both categories, both workforce development and environmental sustainability? If your model manages to do both, you know, you'll be great. We are not giving more points for one application that covers two. Certainly not. I cannot emphasize enough that this is about the social, environmental, and economic impact that we want to achieve through our projects. This is why when we don't even call our selected applicants winners, because the only winners here are the communities that will end up reaping the benefits of this business model that you're putting forward. So if you manage to present a model in which you will support digital skills of workforce development while at the same time adopt circular economy approaches, waste management measures, climate smart agricultural technologies, by all means. Thank you for that question. Do all partners have to provide financial information? I would say that have the main applicant provide the financial information. If you are partnering with a few, choose the one who has the muscle and provide that financial information. This would be right now my answer. If you have questions, write to us. Does the counterpart funds only need to be in hard cash or may also be in hours? Well, this is precisely what we call in kind, right? Sometimes in kind contribution is the time provided by the manager of the organization to the project. So yes, half is going to have to be cash and the other one is the in-kind contribution. Is it possible to use USAID grant funding as the matching funds? Write to us, because we need to know the context for this question. I can't really answer that right now. Can the non-refundable grant be under 250,000? I would say focus on the model. Focus on the model. I know we are asking for counterpart resources. I know that it's stressful. Financial audited statements, everything is, one more requirement. But believe me, when your idea is something that we've never seen before, that is going to leapfrog you to the next level in technology, when this is going to accelerate a transformation in country or in sector, that for us is key. The level of innovation is key. And then we can discuss counterpart, we can discuss connection, partners, replicability. We will be able to co-create that project together. Focus on the novel idea. That's my answer. Are tourism acceleration programs eligible for funding? I would say yes, just by reading tourism acceleration programs, because it sounds, accelerating. I guess it's incubating and accelerating entrepreneurs. So write to us, because how you've described this question, I am not very clear what you mean. So we need more context. We need more information on that one. Hi, question regarding the 50% in kind. Can we use land donation or property asset donations to the project as part of the 50% skin in the game category?
I could chime in here, Dora. Okay.
Yeah.
This, based on what I'm seeing here, does not address the cash contribution portion. So whilst the property or the use of a property or land could be in some shape or form considered as the in-kind contribution, it would not cover 50%, only 20% of the 25% of the in-kind contribution. So you would still need the cash contribution, if I'm reading this question correctly.
And in doubt, write to us.
Sure.
Can you upload all the Q&A on the Beyond Tourism site so it's easy to refer later? So what we are doing right now is we are recording this session. And in the frequently asked questions, we are going to add one more, potentially at the very end, saying, how do I get more information? And we will place there the link to this recording session, so you have this there to refer to. How many grants are allocated for this challenge? Is it per country? We don't have an allocation. We don't have an idea of how many countries or projects, not really, no. We've conducted a number of open calls in the past, and it's varied tremendously. So we can't really give you an idea there. What can we as applicants count toward our 50% contribution to the project's budget? I think that is captured in the guidelines. So I'm going to have to encourage you to read the guidelines for that one. And also because we're running out of time and I want to cover as many as possible that you don't see in the guidelines or frequently asked questions. So also, I see that the grant money is not allowed to be used in construction projects. That's right. Grant resources cannot go into construction projects. But what about rehabbing, renovating work of an existing property? Would that be prohibited? Yes, we are not subsidizing with grant money those types of projects. That is just our mandate. That's how the IDB Lab works. So sorry. What do you mean exactly by ready to implement solutions? What we mean is that what we want to attract ideas that are now at the very, very incipient early stage that has never been piloted before, and you don't have a clue of how this is going to come about, right? Because these are, you know, precious grant resources that we will be providing you. And so we need to have at least an idea of how this will come to be, right? But apply. Even if you have an idea that you don't think is ready, apply. You never know when that, we are running this in 15 countries, but remember we covered 26 and we work globally with a global network of entrepreneurs. So never shy from applying with a novel idea. Is it permissible to apply for projects in more than one member country? Yes, yes it is. You can do that, of course. If the business model can support it, of course. And I think it's 3 p.m. already, but let me cover at least the last two questions. Are the costs for development of a mobile application be counted as half of the investment? It depends, I think, on what application and for what. It depends on the model. It does. So write to us, please, so that we can expand on this question and answer you accordingly. And finally, what is the maximum duration of the projects? Normally, for a project that has been awarded with grant resources, it's from 2 to 3 years time. That's the time frame. For loans is different because there is the repayment portion of the loan, and that could run longer. The business model will tell us all, and also the scope of the project. But I'm just giving you an average. And I think that I'm afraid that we don't have more time today, but I want to thank you all for your time, for listening, for your questions, and also for your interest in our Beyond Tourism Challenge. I know that, that if you are listening to this webinar, if you took the time for this, you have an interest, and just apply, partner, look strategically for partners, find your novel idea, and let us help you turn that idea into a fantastic development project. Not sure if my colleagues want to say something.
I would just add that we're looking forward to your proposal, and as Dora mentioned, just focus on the idea, focus on the business models, focus on the innovation and the technology, and we will see how that goes with the other elements. But looking forward to the proposals from other countries in the Caribbean and Latin America that are under this call.
Great. Thank you very much. Don't forget, July the 31st. July the 31st, coming soon. Don't start at 11 p.m. Don't do that. Start early. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.